My name is Joe Arnold. I'm Vice President of Kentucky Electric Cooperatives. We are the statewide association which supports all 26 electric co-ops, the 24 distribution co-ops, and the 2 generation and transmission co-ops in Kentucky. Again, a reminder, co-ops operate in 117 of the state's 120 counties. We are across the state, and co-ops are democratic institutions. Co-ops not only belong to the people they serve, the co-ops are also led by fellow consumer members who are democratically elected to represent consumer interests on the local co-op board. So because Kentucky Electric Cooperatives believe in and support civic engagement, the co-op sponsored today's event, the Frankfort Youth Tour, as well as the Washington Youth Tour, to select you, rising young leaders, to gain a personal understanding of Kentucky and American history, civic affairs, your role as citizens and as members of electric co-ops. And today is a special day. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the very first Kentucky Rural Electric Youth Tour. Since 1972, co-ops have now sponsored, by my count, about 1,600 Kentucky high school students in the Youth Tour program. 6 years ago, we launched another important commitment to civic engagement called Co-ops Vote. It's a nonpartisan effort to boost voter turnout in the areas served by electric cooperatives. And since then, turnout is up in rural Kentucky. And we are so thankful for the efforts here in Frankfort to encourage voting as well as faith in our election system. Because we are counting on you in this room to register as soon as you are eligible and demonstrate this leadership back at home, I'm going to call on one of our young leaders here today for our next introduction. Please welcome from McCracken County High School, a junior there, Sydney Curley. Sydney?
We're gathered here today to invest in Kentucky's young people through the Frankfort Youth Tour. It's my honor to introduce Kentucky's 86th Secretary of State and the 77th person to serve in that role, Michael G. Adams. Secretary Adams is a native of Paducah and attended the McCracken County Public Schools in his youth. He was the first in his family to get a bachelor's degree. After graduating from the University of Louisville, he attended Harvard Law School on a low-income aid. Returning from Kentucky, Secretary Adams served as Deputy General Counsel to Governor Ernie Fletcher before moving to Washington to accept an appointment as counsel to the U.S. Deputy Attorney General in the second Bush administration. In 2007, Secretary Adams began full-time private practice in electric law, first as General Counsel to the Republican Governors Association and later opening a national practice in the field. He has represented several national political committees, numerous national political figures, and statewide campaign efforts in all 50 states. Inaugurated as Secretary of State on January 6, 2020, Secretary Adams first pushed his signature legislative issue through the General Assembly, Kentucky's first photo ID to vote law. He then pivoted to saving the primary and general elections from the problems that troubled other states during the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, Secretary Adams presented state legislators with the most ambitious election reform plan since 1891, and the bill passed both chambers with near unanimous support. In short, his works make it easy to vote and hard to cheat, and it has brought Kentucky from the back of the pack to the national leader in election administration, earning praise throughout America and across party lines. Secretary Adams is married to Christina and the proud father of Lucia, and we are so excited for him to help us launch the 2022 Co-ops Vote. Please welcome Secretary Michael Adams.
I'm happy to be here today partnering with Kentucky Electric Co-ops as we launch the 2022 Co-ops Vote campaign together. Since Co-ops Vote was launched in 2016, we have seen steady improvement in voter turnout in our rural counties. In the 2020 election, rural counties saw a 62% voter turnout. That was slightly higher than what we saw in our metropolitan areas. I hope that we continue to see that number increase, and I think that we will, because voting in Kentucky has never been as accessible or as secure as it is today. This upcoming election will be the first time that most Kentuckians get to take advantage of the improvements that we made last year in House Bill 574. I'm going to summarize those really quickly and tell you why they matter to our rural voters. Number one, we expanded voting. For 130 years, we only had one day to go vote. Now we've got 4. Statewide, every election, you're going to have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, as well as that Tuesday to go vote. Guess what the counties were in Kentucky in 2020 that most utilized the early voting? Casey County and Clinton County, both rural areas. This is especially great for our rural voters, expanded access to the ballot. Next, we, in this law, kept the absentee ballot request and tracking portal that we created administratively in 2020. This is now a permanent feature of our elections. Most Kentucky voters want to vote in person. That's true in our rural areas and our urban areas. But not everybody can. Some of our voters are aged or they're disabled. They've got health conditions, especially in a pandemic, that don't permit them to go vote in person. That's fine. You can vote absentee. It's never been easier or more secure than it is today. Go to our website, govoteky.com. In about 2 minutes, you've applied for your ballot. We check your ID, we check your identity to make sure that it's you, and then we process that ballot back out to you. And the best part is you can track it yourself. You can track your ballot online in the way you would track your Amazon package. You can see that your vote has been sent to you. You can see that your ballot has been received back by your county clerk, and you can see that your vote's been counted. That's the type of reassurance Kentuckians are looking to right now in everything that they're doing, and we provide that in our election system. Next, the cure process. It used to be if you voted an absentee ballot and you signed the outside envelope as the law requires, and you sent that to your county clerk and they got it, and your signature looked different than it did when you registered to vote, whenever that was, they threw out your vote. They didn't tell you. There was no process, no notification, no nothing. I've got 3 grandparents still alive in Livingston and Cracken counties. They're well into their 80s, and they registered to vote in the 1950s. Their signatures look different today than when they registered to vote for and against Dwight Eisenhower. But we didn't honor our senior citizens. Now we do. Now the law requires our county clerks, if they get a mismatched signature, to not just throw out the ballot. They got to check first and see if it's that voter or not. We've re-enfranchised tens of thousands of Kentucky voters by adopting the cure process. Fourth, vote centers. The number one way I've seen voters suppressed, and there is voter suppression, here's what it looks like. People go to the wrong precinct and they get turned away. They moved, they didn't update their driver's license, whatever. They go to the wrong place to vote, they get sent some other place in the county, and then they say, forget it, it's not worth it. Through our measure, now every county is authorized to have countywide vote centers where you can vote at any location in the county. Maybe it's more convenient to vote near where you live than the precinct place they sent you to before. Guess what? It's your decision. You can vote either place you want. We saw this really take off in our rural areas and become very popular. And now in our law that has made this a permanent option. Some counties aren't doing it, some are. It's a local decision, but we are glad that you can take advantage of that. Fifth, we made drop boxes permanent. Drop boxes should not be controversial. They're a great invention that we've offered Kentuckians. Look, I think the most secure way to vote is in person. That's what most voters of both parties want to do. But again, not everybody can. Some voters are voting absentee. Well, you can trust the Postal Service with your ballot, but you don't have to. If you want to personally drop your ballot in the box and know it's been received and get rid of the middleman, you can do that. Every county has got drop boxes that we have made available to them. Six, we began a process of transition away from electronic voting machines toward universal paper ballots. With paper ballots, you get the speed of a quick count through the machines, but you also get the security of a paper trail, so you can do an audit, you can do a recount, you can do the basic things that offer transparency to our voters and give them confidence in our system. Last year, our measure began that process of transition toward universal paper ballots. There's a measure now on the floor of the House, possibly today, Senate Bill 216, that will actually provide a mandate, also funding, but provide a mandate that we will be universal paper ballot by January 1st of 2024, which is the last day of my term of office. And seventh, we banned ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting is a pernicious practice that shady groups use to collect ballots and deliver the ones they want to deliver and not deliver the others. That's not good for anybody, regardless of your politics. We actually have seen vote fraud come out of ballot harvesting, and we have prohibited that in this measure. Let me put in a shameless plug for something I need from you, if I can possibly get it. Showing up to vote is great. It's an important part of civic participation. But it's not all that we need from you. We also need poll workers, especially in our rural areas. I can't run an election without election workers. It takes 15,000 election workers to run a statewide election in Kentucky. Every precinct needs 4 by law, and you gotta have Democrats and Republicans, so everyone knows there's checks and balances and it's fair. But I don't have 15,000 employees, I got about 30. You can do the math. I need your help. I was elected in 2019, and before I was sworn in, I got to testify to the legislature about what I wanted to do in this position. I told them in 2019, before COVID, that we have a poll worker crisis in Kentucky. Guess what? The pandemic did not help. More than ever, we have got to have poll workers. We've got to have volunteers. If we don't have enough poll workers, we don't have enough voting locations. People get suppressed. We cannot permit that. This would especially be a hardship on our rural communities. So I'm going to ask all of you today, if you're eligible to register to vote, we've got forms for you. Register to vote. And one more thing, be a poll worker. We've gotten the law changed to remove discrimination in our statutes that said that only Democrats or Republicans could be poll workers. 10% of the voters are not Democrats or Republicans. They're independents or they're libertarians or what have you. Well, we should make sure that we don't discriminate. We should let everybody participate in this process. Number one, that's the right thing to do, but number two, I need the help. So regardless of what your personal politics are, we need your help. So we've got paperwork for you if you'd like that, but anytime on your phone right now, if you wish, you can go to govoteky.com. That is where you can register to vote and take advantage of all the services that I've described. You can also register to be a poll worker at that website. I'm so proud to work with this great organization and work with all of you. I'm confident we're going to see voter participation increase significantly over the course of my term, both because of the reforms we've made here in Frankfort and because of the hard work that all of you do on the ground. Thank you all so much.
So one point I wanted to bring up about co-ops vote, and this actually speaks to Secretary Adams' record as Secretary of State. Co-ops vote is a nonpartisan campaign. It also does not endorse any candidates. And it's very clear is that because in this day and age when everything seems to be drawn along partisan lines, and I like the Secretary to remark upon this because he actually received criticism from both sides of the aisle because of the fact that he also was behind basically a nonpartisan effort. So if you could just comment on the fact, some recent history, the fact that you actually did something that was considered to be not favoring your party. And in fact, you partnered with the governor on a bipartisan effort to make this happen. Yeah. But that's unusual in America today. We're behind this because we believe that people locally need to show up and have their voice be counted, and you made it a point to say you want to do the same thing.
Thank you so much, Joe. That's a great point that applies to you all as well. Let me tell you, some states don't do it this way, but here's how we do this in Kentucky. We have bipartisanship baked into our election system at every single level. It wasn't just the Republican Secretary of State that worked with the Democratic governor. I think that was important to reassure both sides that we were going to be fair and objective, but we weren't alone. We've got a bipartisan state board of elections, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. By law, every county has a bipartisan board of elections. You've got the county clerk on it, you've got the county sheriff on it, you've got at least 1 Democrat, at least 1 Republican on it by state law. Both parties get to nominate their own people to serve on those boards. Every voting location, by law, we got to have a mix of Democrats and Republicans. So whether it's us in Frankfort that are counting the votes, or the county boards of elections that are counting the votes, or even the poll workers when you go to vote, you've got D's and R's sitting there together, working together in good faith to make this election work well. I hope that will be a good example to you all. I'm sure that we have Democrats and Republicans, independents, and everything in between in this room. That's good. That's a good thing. We should all be working together to make sure we have a good election, including high turnout.
I have one last question before I let the Secretary go, and that is midterm elections typically don't draw as many voters as general elections. Do you have any hopes that this year might be different?
It's too soon to say what the turnout's going to be. I hope it'll be good. If we don't, at least for now, appear to have competitive primaries for the U.S. Senate at the top of the ticket. We had a very high turnout in our primary in 2020 because we had a competitive race for the party nomination for the U.S. Senate in one of the two parties. We don't have that this time. My hope is that doesn't drive the turnout down. Here's the good news. Every local official in Kentucky, more or less, is on the ballot in May. This is when we have our local elections in the midterm year. And frankly, most of our counties don't have very competitive general elections anymore. We have a lot of polarization. We've got very blue counties and very red counties. So the real competition is in the primary election. We typically have the lowest turnout in the primary compared to the general, but that's an opportunity for you to make a real difference because your vote matters all that much more. We're going to have a long ballot. It's going to be potentially several pages. We've got so many people that have filed to run for office at every level of the ticket. Senate, House, legislature, local races. Let me tell you one thing that I think voters sometimes get wrong. You're going to see huge turnout in presidential elections. People care a lot about who the president is. And you see low turnout elections when you're picking your local officials. That is exactly backwards. Whoever the president is matters a lot less to you in your daily life, in your school, and your local government, and your roads. What's far more impactful in your life is who those local officials are. It's far more important that you vote in these elections this year, I would argue, than it is when you vote for president in 2024. So make sure that you do that.
Let's thank Secretary Adams.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all.